I decided that because my degree is just so easy, I would add an obligation onto that by reviewing, analyzing, looking at books in general. And I thought, what way do I introduce myself? What book do I introduce myself with? The answer is Fazbear Frights. If there's one thing to know about me, it is that I love Five Nights at Freddy's. It's genuinely one of the best things that ever happened in my life. I like books. You could probably tell I'm running out of space. And I realised that I want to talk about the books that I read. And yeah, I could write an essay, but who wants to do that? Not me. I'm not writing an essay. I have an essay due in January, but that's besides the point. I thought, what better way to introduce myself than with Five Nights at Freddy's, because it's something I love. I can talk about it forever. Just the first story. That is what I'm gonna do. I do actually have uni today, so if like the frame changes, it's because I had to dip and go uni, go get my degree, and then had to come back and pick up later. So if the lighting sucks, sorry, I have to work around my very busy schedule of 2 hours a day, 3 times a week. Anyways, yes, my name's Nathan. I'm gonna be reviewing / looking / analysing / just talking about books. First book, Five Nights at Freddy's Fazbear Shit in the Pit. I don't have a doctorate, but I do have an undergrad degree and I'm doing a master's on creative writing, so I feel like I know what I'm talking about a little bit at least. And I'm not saying that my writing is the bee's knees, because it is most definitely not. I write absolute dribble like 9 times out of 10. The best thing I ever wrote, I don't want to get into it. It was like a Judas Exegesis or Megaverse wrote in the style of like Wattpad era fanfic. Like I threw my hair up into a messy bun, I went downstairs and my mum sold me One Direction. It was in that style. That was like the best thing I've ever wrote, and it was a satire, and it was for a prompt for uni. Call me the new John Milton. For y'all who don't know, John Milton wrote Paradise Lost, which is basically Bible fanfic, and a lot of our beliefs on the Bible come from Paradise Lost, but not everyone knows what Paradise Lost is, which is like, that's like 50 Shades of Grey level fanfic, where you don't even know what the original piece was. I don't know why I'm comparing. Why am I comparing Paradise Lost to 50 Shades of Grey? Anyways, Five Nights at Freddy's. First, I'm gonna get comfortable. The first story is Into the Pit, and it is a lovely little tale following Oswald. It's set in an I don't know what time, because they rent off Redbox, but they also have Netflix and the internet and YouTube. I don't know, maybe like 2010s. So we open to Oswald and his dad in the car talking about dead raccoons and dead towns. This is used to kind of like set up that the town's dead, not many people are around anymore, and Oz is kind of like, he's a bit of a diva, but we kind of love him for that, but we also don't, because he's a child. The first red flag to me instantly is that there's this section that starts 3 years ago when Oswald was 7. There had actually been stuff to do here. A movie theatre, a game and card store. And it keeps rambling on about what used to be there. I don't want to hear about that. An issue I have with this book, well, this story, is it's very tell don't show. And if you know anything about the rules of writing, it is show don't tell, not tell don't show. I don't want to be told things. I want to kind of work them out myself. And I know that probably the target audience for this is not 22-year-old men, but that's the fan base. So explain that one, Scott Coffin. I wrote here, subtlety please. Okay, subtlety please, guys. We do have a nice simile. One business after another shut down, like the organs in a dying body. I do like that. That's a nice simile, but I feel like it could have been extended out into more of a metaphor. You could have explained the entirety of the town being kind of dookie, but by using a metaphor instead of just using one simile 3 pages in. It does give, Dying Body does give the sense that it was once fun and like full of life and now it's dead, but like that's as much as it does. I feel like it's kind of lost because it comes after the explanation that everything's already shut down and gone to dookie and butt, so it feels kind of not pointless but pointless. Is that harsh? I don't know. Anyways, so we have this dialogue between Oz and his dad, and it kind of is just like, oh well, I can't have fun. And the dad goes into well, when I was your age, I had fun all the time. Which is really funny coming from the guy who lost his job at the mill to work at a sandwich shop. What's fun about a sandwich shop, Dad? And then we meet another character really quickly called Dylan Cooper. He's given a last name, I don't know why. We meet Dylan Cooper and he calls Oswald the Ocelot, which I feel like is such a stupid nickname. Like, it's portrayed as bullying. I don't know about you, but when I was bullied, I was just called slurs and, like, beat up. But, you know, whatever. It's not about me, it's about Oswald the Ocelot. And then we kind of go into Oswald lamenting about how he's poor, he doesn't have a proper phone, it's the last day of school, everyone's got all their like technology out. And he doesn't, and he just sits there drawing. I'd like to read a section to you, just because I feel like it's a section I enjoy, which is so far a hard ask for this book. So he didn't know why, but lately he had been drawing mechanical animals, bears, bunnies and birds. He imagined them being human-sized and moving with the jerkiness of robots in an old science fiction movie. They were furry on the outside, but the fur covered a hard metal skeleton filled with gears and circuits. Sometimes he drew the animals' exposed metal skeletons or sketched them with the fur peeling back to show some of the mechanical workings underneath. It was a creepy effect, like seeing a person's skull peeking out from beneath their skin. So I think this kid needs therapy, like, immediately, because I drew some weird things when I was a kid, but I was never like, it looks like the skin's peeling back. It's peeling back. But yeah, I think it's a fun little description. I feel like so far it's my favorite section, just because it actually is showing, not telling. You know? Like, I'm actually getting a bit of description, and I get to linger on something for a little while, which is an issue I have with this book, is that it doesn't linger. It's like, it just feels like paragraph after paragraph, but we'll get to that. We will get to that. And we find out that Oswald's best friend Ben has moved away because the mill shut down, and his family needed a job. But Oz is there because his grandma lives there, and they don't want to move far away from the grandma. Convenient plot point says, convenient. Hey, I'm not against the convenient plot point, but when it was kind of like Chekhov's grandma, I was like waiting for the grandma to come back up. She comes up like once, and it's just for the exact same reason, and I was like, we also learn that Oz's mom works at a hospital, so he doesn't really see her. We go into it kind of like, we learn that Oz's dad is like doing the best he can with his like £5 an hour, I can't remember. He doesn't have a good paying job at the sandwich shop. Then Oswald's dad is like, I have a great idea. Now that it's summer, why don't you, while I'm at work, sit in the library? And then when you're hungry, you go to Jeff's Pizza and have some pizza and soda, and I'll pick you up and we'll go home, and I'll shove macaroni in the microwave. And Oz is like, great, love that. So fun. And then we have a little description of Jeff's. It's another part of the story where I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, I can actually linger here and I'm enjoying it because I'm actually getting some information that's not just, this is what is happening, this is what has happened, and this is what will happen. So I will read that for you now. Oswald considered for a moment. Jeff's Pizza was kind of weird. It wasn't dirty exactly, but it was run down. The vinyl on the booth seats had been repaired with duct tape, not ripped, and the plastic letters had fallen off the menu boards above the counter. So the listing toppings included pepperoni and burger. I do like pepperoni and burger. I don't know, I think that breathes some life into the story a little bit, because I'm like, yeah, I can imagine that. It was clear that Jeff's Pizza used to be something bigger and better than it now was. There were tons of unused floor space. Grammar. Okay, that's what. Okay, this is. I'm reading out loud and there's grammar issues, and I didn't even realize that till I started reading out loud. This is why you read back your work, guys, out loud, because you don't realize stuff don't work. Yeah, that doesn't make sense grammatically. And then we have a repeated word. There are tons of unused floor space and lots of unused electrical outlets along the base of the wall. Yeah, so I take back I don't like this section. It's great. It's for giving an idea of what the place looks like, but otherwise, grammatically, it's kind of a mess. Yeah. Oops. I rescind my offer of this being a good section to read, you guys. Now I'm just reading it because I don't like it. Also, on the far wall was a small stage, even though there was no performances there, not even as much as a karaoke night. It was a strange place, sad and not what it had once been, like the rest of the town. Oswald, you need to get over the fact that the town's dead. I get that you're 11 and this is your big edgy moment where you're like, I grew up poor. Oswald's like, well, are you gonna give me money for the pizza? And then his dad's like, yeah, dude, we have money for pizza. He's like, okay, great. Then Oz watches like some old Japanese movie, and my weeaboo alert is going off. I'm sensing a weeaboo in the making here. But after that, he goes to bed. He says, please, he wished, his eyes closing tight, please let something interesting happen, which I think is great foreshadowing for a child. It's very on the nose, but it is an attempt at foreshadowing, so I'm okay with it. I'm not too angry about it. Then Oswald wakes up in the morning and he sees his mom and she's making breakfast and she's like, I know it's a bummer, but you know, maybe someone new will move to town. And he's like, why would someone new move to town? The town's dead. And she's like, okay, you have a point. Go enjoy your summer holiday. Like, leave the house. So then he does. So he goes to the library, he reads the science fiction books, and then he goes to Jeff's Pizza. And we get another little section of description that I think I will read out again, and I will probably spot more. Maybe I'll spot another mistake. Or like a syntax error again. Maybe. Yeah, I'm excited because I'm dyslexic, so I often don't like grammar and spelling. I'm just like, whatever works. Hey, if I understand what's going on, I'm okay. Jeff's Pizza was as weird as he remembered. The big empty space beyond the booths and tables was like a dance floor where no one danced. The walls were painted a pale yellow, but they must have used cheap paint or only one coat because shapes of whatever had been on the walls before were still visible. Probably's been some kind of mural with people or animals, but now it was just shadows below a thin veil of yellow paint. Love that. I love a veil of yellow paint. Oswald sometimes tried to figure out what the shapes were, but they were too bobbly to make out. Then there was the stage that never got used, standing empty but seemingly waiting for something. Though a feature even wider than the stage lay in the back right corner. There was a large rectangular pen surrounded by yellow netting, but it had been roped off with a sign that said, "Do not use." The pen itself was filled with red, blue, and green plastic balls that had probably been brightly coloured once, but they're now faded and fuzzy with dust. So this is where the pit get introduced to the pit, guys. Oh my god, the pit. Yeah, so we get introduced to the pit. We get introduced to the pit. And Oswald is like, I'm gonna get pink eye if I go in there. That's scary, and it says do not use. I'm gonna stay away from there. Can you guess what he does? He's fine. He just has pizza and he talks about how like the first bite of a pizza's the best. Finishes his slice, and he reads for 2 hours. Me as hell, me on public transport. And then Jeff's like, kid, and he's like, oh, I've overstayed my welcome. But then he just gets free pizza instead because I think Jeff feels bad for him and he knows he's poor. Then his dad picks him up, and that's kind of like it. Like that's that section. That's like the first section. That's the introductory section. It's the setup. I don't. It's a setup. Like things were set up, sure, but not things I wanted. He goes on to say that the first few weeks were great, but this is not it. Doesn't have anyone to hang out with, but he's not sick of pizza because pizza's great. Then we talk about family fun night, which used to be like, we're gonna go roller skating. we're gonna go climb a mountain. I don't know, they didn't climb a mountain, but now they just kind of sit at home and watch movies, which is great. I love that. Or like a board game, they play Clue, and then they have like a little another dad, father son kind of bonding moment where they're kind of like, yeah, but I enjoy practical effects more than CGI. And Ozzy's like, yeah, but CGI, and his dad's like, yeah, but you love the practical effects, and he's like, yeah, I do. And then the mom is like, okay, if you guys don't cut out the nerd argument, I'm going to pick the next movie we watch, and it's going to be a romantic comedy. First of all, don't slate romantic comedy. Why is the only woman in the story like a most like the most stripped back version of feminine, like believed femininity? Like, why we pushing this narrative, Scott? I wonder why. And then he gets a text from Ben, and he's like, yeah, I'm at Myrtle Beach, it's really sick. And Oswald's like, I've been hanging out with Jeffs. And Ben goes, I'm sorry, that's creepy. I love that, because that is exactly how me and my friends used to text when I was like 11. I'd be like, I'm here, and they'd be like, ew. And I'd be like, I didn't feel bad about it until you said ew, but okay. But as always, children are suggestible. So now that Ben is like, it's creepy, I don't like it, Oz is like, it's creepy, I don't like it, Dad. And they have kind of like a little argument in the car where he's like, I don't like country music. And I'm just like, same. If my dad was blasting country music on the way to the library, I'd be like, Dad, can we please not do that? And he's like, well, I don't want to listen to your game music. I just imagine he's listening to the Five Nights at Freddy's song. I know that's just like not true, but that's just what I imagine. Then we have an interesting thing where Oswald's really melodramatic again, and he goes, and so every day you toss me out into the street like garbage. If this is the best of things, I hate to see the worst. Okay, Oz. Go off, sis. So then he leaves. He's kind of bored of the library now. No more books. Still just so bored of the library. And then he goes to Jeff's, and he does his pizza and his soda as normal, but then he's like, I'm angry at my dad. What can I do to inconvenience my dad? It's just such a childish way of thinking, which is that's a compliment, because Oz is a child. And he's like, there was one perfect place to hide. Oswald was going into the pit. First of all, I do love a good title in the thing. I don't know if that has a name. I should know if it has a name. I'm doing a master's. But yeah, I do like a good this is title in the text itself, in the pit. Love that. That's fun. So he takes off his shoes, jumps in the pit, comes like sneezes 3 times. I don't know what the relevance of sneezing 3 times is. Is that like the summoning ritual? Is that what happens? Then he's like, I'm just gonna get pink eye. He just keeps thinking about his mom telling him he's gonna get pink eye. Which is a valid fear, to be fair. I don't think anyone wants pink eye. Yeah, so then he gets out. He gets out the pit because he's like, I don't know if my dad's looking for me. And he's been transported back in time. Well, he doesn't know this yet, but it's like pretty obvious. You can hear like the sound of arcades. There's like these clunky animatronics in the corner. Like, something has changed. Very obviously something has changed. And we got a little bit of a description of the animatronics, which Five Nights at Freddy's. Oswald looked around to see where it was coming from. This is in reference to music. Across the room on a small stage, a trio of animatronic animals blinked their big blank eyes, open and closed their mouths, and pivoted back and forth in sync with a jangly, annoying song. There's a brown bear, a blue rabbit with a red bow tie, and some kind of bird girl. First of all, we don't know that. I mean, we do, but he does. How can he tell it's a bird girl? Everyone thought Chica was a boy for the longest time. I didn't even know it was called Chica, but that's besides the point. They reminded Oswald of the mechanical animals he caught himself drawing lately. The difference was that he could never decide if the animals in his drawings were cute or creepy. So yeah, Oz is like, this is strange. That's weird. And he quickly realizes that this is Jeff's, but it's just what was Jeff's before it became Jeff's. He's like, wow, what? And then he bumps into 2 new characters, Chip and Mike. They actually do come back, unlike some characters. So they kind of introduce each other, and he's like, I love all these old games. And they're like, old games? These are like the newest games. That's what Freddy Fazbear's is known as, and like known for, is the new games. So then he plays skee-ball. And that's his day. He plays skee-ball. But before that, we see a little we get some more pizzazz from another description about a yellow rabbit. I wonder what that's in. I wonder who that is. On the way, they pass someone in a rabbit suit that looked like a yellow version of the animatronic rabbit on the stage. Nobody else seemed to be paying attention to the rabbit guy, so Oswald didn't say anything. It was probably the Freddy Fazbear employee dressed up to entertain the little kids at the birthday party. Maybe. Or maybe it's a killer. We don't know. Hey, we don't know. So he's like, he gets his butt beat in skee ball and he's like, I need to go home. So he gets out the pit. He goes back in the pit, counts to 100, an arbitrary number. I don't know if sneezing would have worked quicker. Yeah, so he goes back in the pit, counts to 100, goes back to his time. He gets a text from his dad being like, I'll be there in 2 minutes. So no time has passed. So he goes in, spends all this time with Mike and Chip, and then he gets out and no time has passed, which is great. Love that. So the next day, his mom is like, wow, I was in a really good mood, Mr. Grumpy Pants from yesterday. And Oz is like, yeah, it's because they're getting the book I want in the library. This is true, but also he just wants to go back to the pit. Personally, if I was 11 years old and I time traveled in a pit, I'd just crawl into a corner, curl up and die. But hey, some 11-year-olds are extroverted. I was not. So yeah, he goes back to Jeff's, he goes into the pit once more, and everything is the same. I do have an issue, but I also don't, with a certain section. I'm reading it now. Everything looked as it had before. He had even caught sight of a calendar hanging up in an open office that helped him pinpoint the date, 1985. So at first this date seems really arbitrary. I feel like if you don't know the games intimately, it is very arbitrary. For the fans of this franchise, this rings bells, this rings alarm bells. They're like, oh my god, it's the 80s. So if you don't know, 1983, a guy that works for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, one of the co-founders, his son's head's caved in by being put into the mouth of one of the animatronics. And then in 1987, a security guard recently changed on a day shift, gets his frontal lobe bit. So, between these two in the games, a massacre occurs with 5 kids. William Afton, one of the co-founders, the one whose son got bit. He kills 5 kids, and if you don't know this doesn't really mean anything, but it does suggest that 1985 is the year that the first round of kids got murdered. Other than that, I feel like it's convenient. Plot point says convenient because, again, I don't know if a kid is that observant. I don't know if you're with your friends, you're hanging out, you're about to go play skee ball again. You're not looking into an office door and looking at the calendar. Yeah, sure, if you looked into an office and saw a computer, you'd look at that. But I don't know, I just feel like it's not really, I know it's not meant to be realistic, but it's not realistic to have a kid be like, the calendar, 1985. Either way, it's doable. I like it. It kind of ties in the lore of the games as well as the book, even though they're technically separate canons, but that's another day. He meets Mike and Chip again, and Mike is wearing a Back to the Future t-shirt, which I find that's hilarious. I love that. That's a fun little inclusion to have. They go to play skee ball again. They love skee ball. When Oz sees the rabbit again. On the way to their table, they pass someone in that same yellow rabbit suit who was standing in a corner, still as a statue. Chip and Mike either didn't see him or ignored him, so Oswald tried to ignore him as well. Why hide in the corner like that, though? If he worked in the restaurant, surely he wasn't supposed to act all creepy. I will say the repetitive use of the word creepy is it's grating. And that's the first sentence of that section is so fucking long. Well, it feels long, that's how you know that your syntax is messed up. If a sentence is kind of short but it feels long, something's gone wrong in the editing process, I think. Then they have pizza, and they talk about movies. And Chip says that he enjoyed the movie The Eternal Song. Now, I'm not from the 80s, as you might be able to tell. I'm not from the 80s. So I was like, movie. I'm gonna look it up. All that I could find was a prequel to, it was a TV show that was a prequel to Yellowstone. And then also it was a movie that released this year, 2025, about it was a documentary about indigenous cultures. So I don't know what that was about. Maybe that's a reference that I'm just missing, but okay. So then they ask Oz, what's your favorite movie? And he's like, 80s movies, go. E.T. And they're like, that was 3 years ago. What are you going on about? We need to get you up to date. And he's like, maybe. Yeah, that'd be fun. I don't know if I can leave Freddy Fazbear's. But yeah, sure. So then the group decide, let's go play some games. But then Oswald suddenly develops empathy and is like, wait, I've kind of been just like scrounging off you guys this whole time. I don't really want to do it. So he gains empathy, which crazy time to gain empathy in Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. But then conveniently he's like, I have tokens in my pocket, which I'm like, what does that matter? Where'd they come from? What's the metaphysical rules of this world? What are the rules of this world? Is it actually the past? Is it just a hallucination? Like, what's going on? So then Oz quizzes his dad, being like, you were alive in 1985, right? And he's like, yeah, I was a few years older than you. And this is the section I want to talk about. I've just been doing some research. Jeff's Pizza, back before it was Jeff's Pizza, it was some kind of arcade, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Dad's voice sounded strange, nervous maybe. He was quiet for a few seconds, then said, but it closed. Once again, we are foreshadowing. This is actually a good foreshadow because it's like, it's not giving you everything, but you're still kind of thinking, and those who know. So it's a nice nod to the readers that are kind of like involved in the lore of the books, games, movies, stuff like that, which is nice. I do like that. Then disaster strikes. He goes into the pit. When he gets out, there's people screaming, shouting, running to the exits, and he's like, oh my god, my friends Chip and Mike that I've seen like 3 times. I have to find them. So he tries to find them. And I'll say the pacing from now on is jank. Like, it is janked. And I will like highlight where I think the pacing needed, like, could do with a rewrite. Like, we need a re-release of this, but written better. So he spots the bunny, and he's like standing in an open doorway that says private, and he like goes inside. And Oswald's like, hey, I'm gonna follow the bunny that creeps me out. Hey. So I don't get that, but okay. I just feel like, obviously when you write, you are telling yourself a story before you're telling anyone else the story. I get that. But then you need to think, what are the logistics? Like, does it make actual sense for this to happen? And yeah, if it's fantastical, people can like suspend their disbelief and be like, yeah, okay, that would happen. But I struggle to suspend my disbelief with this, because I'm like, why would an 11-year-old that's seeing everyone screaming, shouting, crying, see a bunny that he thought was a member of staff, but now he's kind of like, I don't actually know if you're a member of staff. When he sees him being like into a private area, I'd be like, first of all, alarm bells, stranger danger, first thing you learn, right? I just think it's convenient. It's convenient writing. They're writing to be convenient, to tell us all to tell the story that they want to tell, but it's not realistically how that would happen, and it's obvious, and readers like me who look into it a bit more than they probably should are like, why would you do that? So he follows the bunny back into this private area where the party room is, and he comes across 5 dead kids. Hey, it's the law. Half a dozen kids, none of them older than Oswald. Their lifeless bodies propped in sitting positions, their legs stretched out in front of them. Some of them had their eyes closed as if asleep. Others' eyes were open, frozen in an empty doll-like stare. They were all wearing Freddy Fazbear Pizza party hats. I do like that. Not that I enjoy kids being murdered, but I do enjoy that description. From here, the pacing gets jank again. He's like, why is the rabbit wanting to tell me these things? And then suddenly it like jumps at him. And I mean, like, jumps at him, he goes in the pit, he leaves. Well, that's just a note being like, pacing's all hell. From there, the bottom of that page, to there is him being scared of the rabbit, running from the rabbit lunging at him running through the pizzeria, him getting back into the pit, hearing police sirens, counting to 100, and then getting out the pit. That's in like 2 paragraphs, which is wild to me. The pacing, what? How? Why are you going so fast? I want to linger on things. I know that you are having to write novella length short stories and put them in a book, but would you not do more service to a story and to get to say what you want to say by elongating that, by letting the camera linger on things? When I'm writing, I'm looking at things through a camera. When I write about something, I imagine it that I'm watching a movie, and that's what I can see, and that helps me visualize what everything looks like. So if you are like, then he ran, then he got in the pit, then he counted 200, then he left. That's like 6 million things in 1 second, and it just feels so unnatural and clunky, and it just throws everything off. And I just, it's really disappointing. It is so disappointing. I really wish that they had either taken the time, or you start in media res, right? You don't need to start at the beginning, but we kind of do start at the beginning. If you really wanted, the horror, if you wanted to focus on the horror aspect, which is what Five Nights at Freddy's does, focus on the horror aspect, you could start in media res, start in the middle, start in the action. It doesn't need to be action, but it can be like, it's been a few weeks, and with no friends, Oswald's in a pizza place, and then you can be like, and then he goes home, and then he gets a text from his friend who hasn't seen in a while, because the town is dead. And it kind of, I don't know, I feel like that would flow better, but whatever. I mean, what would I know? Then we get another really badly paced action sequence, which is his dad's like, what are you doing in there? Blah, blah, blah. He's like, time has passed this time. Don't know why, but yeah. He goes to get him out the ball pit, and then a bunny reaches up and grabs him, pulls him in, and he's like comically kicking his legs above the balls from like there to like halfway through that paragraph there. Huh? Yeah, it's just paced so strangely. I mean, it feels like at the beginning they were like, it was strange, but like kind of okay paced. But now as they're getting into the action, I understand action speeds up a story a lot, but it feels like they're not paying enough attention to it. It feels like they wanted to do all this world building, and then now that the world building's there, like, oh, something actually has to happen now. Yeah, I guess his dad gets pulled into the pit, which is like a cool concept. It's such a cool concept. I'd love to say that I came up with a concept like that, but I didn't. And I feel like they work with it so strangely. It's just so strange. I don't know. I don't get it. Maybe I'm being dramatic. Maybe I'm just reading into things way too much. But this is literally what this video is. I don't know what you want from me. I'm having fun. Hey, I'm having fun. One of my favorite things to do is complain. So then the rabbit comes out of the pit. His dad's nowhere to be seen. He grabs Oswald by the shoulders and walks him out the pizzeria. And Jeff does not react to this. And he's like, okay, I'm going crazy. What the hell? So he's talking to the rabbit. He's like, can you even drive? Like, what are you doing? I don't want to be here. But he's like, pushes him into the car, and they drive home. He brings them inside, and Oz is like, I'm going to my room. Hell no. But before that, we get mention of Jinx, best character. Hey, woo! Sound the alarms. Best character. Jinx is a black cat, and she's beautiful. I love her. I love the phrase, if Jinx knew this situation was bad, it must be really bad. That's nice. Nice little one-liner. This piece really does. It's just a lot of filler with good one-liners between it. So he goes to his room. He hides in his room. He closes the door. He knows the bunny's outside, but he's like, no. So he calls his mom, who was at the hospital saving lives, and he's like, emergency, come home quick. Like, Dad's not okay. And she's like, okay, I'm on my way. And she comes home and she's like, what's wrong? And he's like, Dad's not okay. He's like strange. And she's like, he's literally fine. He's like, he's lying in bed, and he made you food. It's in the microwave waiting for you. And he's like, and she's like, I understand if you were upset, but like you need to save those calls and texts for emergencies only. And he's like, I thought it was an emergency. I don't know about you, but if my dad was replaced by a bunny, and I knew that bunny had killed, I would make more of a fuss. Maybe it might get me institutionalized, but I'd rather be institutionalized away from the bunny than living at home with the bunny, pretending the bunny's my dad. So he assumes the bunny's gone, but then the next morning he goes down for food and he's there. The bunny's still there. He's like, is Dad taking me to school? And his mom is like, yes, as always. So forgot to mention, he's back at school now. So we get another David Cooper moment. sounds like an action star villain, like an action villain. And he's like, give it a rest, Dylan. I don't have time for your nicknames. I have better things to do. So then at lunch, he's sitting outside, and this girl comes over and is like, hey, can I sit with you at this bench? And he's like, yeah, of course. And this is Gabrielle, and she's a new kid. Why is there a new kid if the town's dead? Whatever. And she's reading a book, and it's about Greek mythology and heroes, and she goes on a rant about how heroes make her feel more brave when she needs to be brave. And she's like, I don't really have any friends, and he's like, you do, I'm your friend, which is nice. That's cute. And I just have a note that says, at 11, you are definitely putting up more of a fuss about all of this than what Oz is. And I think that's reasonable. I think that I've mentioned that. I think that's reasonable. I would not be putting up with what he's putting up. So he goes home after school. His dad, the bunny, picks him up. And he's like trying to act normal, which is why I'm like, you need to put up a bit of a fuss here, but like, you need to say that something's wrong. Because like, if he really is your dad and you're seeing a bunny, then you need to be seen by a professional, you know? He's home and his dad's the rabbit still, and he does his chores, and he goes hangs out in his room, and then he like reads manga, which is like, I was like, oh, weebo. My thought from earlier is concise, it's real, it's grounded. I'm glad I thought that. I predicted something. He's a weeb. He draws, but he doesn't draw. He doesn't want to draw mechanical animals, but he does. It's like OCD. He's like just compelled to, I guess. Then his dad makes food, and then he's not like, it's just like, at this point I'm bored, because he's just acting like it's normal. So I just feel like nothing's happening. And yeah, maybe something is, but it just feels that way. I don't know, it just feels lazy. Then we get another honourable Jinx mention. He brings a bowl of milk up to her, and she has it. Thank gosh. Thank the Lord that Jinx is okay, because she's the best character in this story, and we need her for the plot. So then he has a thought, and he's thinking about his dad, and he's like, is my dad dead? Which is, I do like this. The yellow thing had dragged his dad into the pit and under the surface. Did this mean his dad was at Freddy Fazbear's circa 1985? Don't think Oz knows what circa means. Wandering around an arcade of games he had played as a kid? That was the most likely explanation, unless the yellow thing had killed. No, he couldn't he couldn't let himself think like that. His dad had to be alive. He had to be. The only way to know was to go back into the pit. Back into the pit, it's circular. Hey, I love a circular story. I love a circular aspect of a story. Love that. It's been approximately 7 hours. I had to leave and go to uni, but we're back. The lighting sucks because it's dark outside. It's literally just a dog. But that's okay. Oswald has this realization about his dad, and he's like, I need to go back in the pit. Lovely circular moment, like I said. And then he sneaks out the house. Put my bookmark down. He sneaks out the house, and he runs through the neighborhood, and then he gets tired. And he makes it to Jeff's just before he closes, and Jeff is like, we're not doing pizza, bud, you're gonna have to go home. He's like, no, I'm just here for a soda to go. And Jeff's like, okay, hold on, I need to do something. And then Oswald's like, okay. And then while Jeff is distracted, Oswald goes beeline right towards the pit. He jumps in and he feels around for his dad. So he's raking through the ball pit, and he feels his dad. Well, he feels shoes, and then legs, and then shoulders, and then a head, and he knows it's his dad. So he tries to pick him up, but he's 11. His dad is probably a big guy if he worked at a mill. He's like a labour man, so he's probably quite chunked. He's probably quite built. So he's like, oh, I can't do that. It says here, he felt it before he saw it, the presence behind him, the awareness of something in his personal space. So he gets the sense that something's behind him. He turns, it's the bunny, and we have some of the best description, like one of the best descriptions in a while. It went through a bit of a like a dry phase of nothing's really going on, nothing's really happening. This description, it brought me all back in again. So Oswald gets in a bit of a tussle, and as kind of the tussle comes to an end, we get he headbutted the yellow thing and knocked it into the ropes and netting that surrounded the ball pit. It stumbled a bit, right at itself, and then, arms outstretched, lunged towards Oswald. It pushed Oswald against the wall of the pit, its eyes dead as always. It unhinged its jaw to reveal double rows of fangs as sharp as scimitars, mouth open freakishly wide. It lunged at Oswald's throat, but he blocked it with his arm. Pain pierced Oswald's forearm as the yellow thing sank its fangs into his skin. So we get a good actual little bit of action, and it doesn't feel like it's stumbling to like get past itself, which is great. I love that. I just wish there was more of it. Then there's an issue here, because as we go on, there just keeps on repeating the word rope, sentence after sentence after sentence, which is like, ooh, that's irking. But then there's also this section where it's like an homage to Gabriella, which is like makes no sense to me, but anyways, it says he had to save his dad like those ancient Greek heroes Gabriella had told him about, and he had to be brave and face the monster. So to me, that feels not as impactful as it could have been. It makes Gabriella feel like she's just there to give a throwaway like a throwaway quote about bravery for Oswald to come back to later. But if we'd had some more actual conversation between Chip and Mike earlier, they could have had a conversation about bravery, and then it would feel more, I don't know, concise, contained, because it's obviously trying to contain itself now into this one situation. But it didn't do that, so now we just kind of have Gabriella, who is mentioned once, and she kind of feels just like a throwaway, which I hate, because so far the two female characters in this short story have been a mother that likes rom-coms and Gabriella, who was there to give a little bit of advice, but not anything massive, and she kind of, it doesn't make sense for her to be there because the town's dying. Why would anyone move there, you know? So in Oswald's kind of, he gets this bravery from Gabriella apparently, and he pushes the rabbit one more time to get away from his dad. And then there is a nice little section where kind of the conflict comes to an end. Basically, the rabbit hangs itself from the ropes of the pit, and when it dies, it becomes just an empty yellow suit, which is kind of like, it wasn't that before, evidently, because it was grabbing at Oswald and Oz was grabbing back. So does that imply that he killed a ghost? Was it possessed by a ghost? Or is it more of like a metaphorical, he overcame his fear of being by himself, so he doesn't need to, I don't know, I can't find like an actual really good reason for it. But anyways, his dad comes to, like nothing. He's like, what happened? And Oz is like, I hid in the ball pit to play a prank on you, which I shouldn't have done. You came to look for me, and I guess you must have hit your head and lost consciousness. I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't mean for things to get out of hand. What kind of reasoning is that? And then his dad's reaction is so chill. His dad's reaction is actually like unbelievably chill for what has happened. He just says, I accept your apology, son, but you're right, you shouldn't have done it. And Jeff really should get rid of this ball pit before he has a lawsuit on his hands, which is funny because the FNAF franchise is known for having lawsuits, like in-game lawsuits against the pizzeria, that's fun. I do like that. And then we have a cute little moment where he's like, Dad, like, I know that I bother you a lot, but I do love you. And he's like, yeah, same here, kiddo. And then the last line is, the last few lines consist of, but you do have terrible taste in science fiction movies. Oh yeah, Oswald said, smiling. Well, you have terrible taste in music, and you like boring ice cream. Together, they opened the door into the fresh night air. Behind them, Jeff called, hey kid, you forgot your soda. Let's take a moment to digest. At its core, this novella-length short story is basically about a kid who is kind of just like sad, alone. He's lost his best friend. He doesn't get like attention from his mom and dad, so he goes and hangs out in the local pizza place that just happens to have a time-traveling ball pit, and he goes in the ball pit, travels back in time, makes friends, witnesses murder, well, the aftermath of murder, and then the purple rabbit, the the yellow rabbit that was inside the ball pit that was in the past takes his dad, replaces his dad for a few days, and then Oz goes back, finds his dad, kills the rabbit, his dad gets back, and then they leave. I don't know, I just feel like there was just way too much build. Like, my issue is with it, it has way too much build up for what the actual climax and kind of like the conflict is. I don't know, I just feel like it wasn't so much horror as it was just things happening. And I know the target audience probably isn't like older demographic, but that is like, it's just annoying because I feel like Goosebumps books are like better than that. Like, they're more scary than that. I read Evil Head Teacher when I was little, I think that's what it's called, and it used to terrify me. It was so scary. Some chapters of Diary of a Wimpy Kid are scarier than that. And I'd read them now and still get scared. So I don't know what was going on there, considering Five Nights at Freddy's is like a horror franchise. But yeah, either way, it's a fun concept. I just think its execution is kind of sloppy and boring. There's just so much filler. It's written by Scott Cawthon, and then it's ghostwritten by Ellie Cooper. Also, peak Dylan Cooper and Ellie Cooper, is that like a brother? I don't know, I'm not gonna even speculate. But obviously it's ghostwritten. And I'm not saying all ghostwritten books are slop, but the ones that I have read have been a bit, not messy, but unorganized. Kind of feel a bit slapdash together. It's not that it's not good, it just doesn't feel finished. It doesn't feel like it's been through enough drafts to feel like a whole concise cohesive thing, which you can really tell by kind of like the exposition-y dumps throughout. My biggest issue is all the exposition. Like, there's just so much of it that can be revealed through literally any other way but the prose itself. It can be done through dialogue, it can be done through a memory, it can be done through a flashback, but instead you just get like a chunk of paragraph at the beginning, like, the town is dead, it used to have things, now it doesn't, it's like an organ, it's like a body with organs. And then the threat doesn't really feel that much of a threat because we never linger on it more than like 3 paragraphs. We don't get more than he stood there ominously and then he led him back into the thing and lunged. Like, obviously the lunge is iconic in FNAF, like, in FNAF culture, so to say, but it just feels kind of empty. If we had something with less build-up, more actual action that, you know, was described well, and I know I keep saying it, but it keeps lingering on those important moments, I feel like we would have something very beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful in itself already, but it be extra beautiful to have how I want it, really. Another issue I have is just the repetition of words. It just feels like the same words are being used over and over and over and over and over again, literally within sentences of each other, which to me, massive red flag. Why did that not get picked up in editing and changed? There are so many words in the English language, you could have used so many other words. You could have phrased it differently so that you didn't have to use the same word twice. It just feels like basic writing knowledge that hasn't been applied. And I know I keep bringing up target audience not being older people, but even if it is targeted towards a younger demographic, like, I don't know, 12 to 15-year-olds, which is how I kind of imagine, that's where I imagine it's meant to be targeted towards, they still deserve well-written, well-edited, well-plotted books. Everyone of all ages deserves a book that's really good. And yes, there will be slop. There is always going to be literary slop. And I'm not saying you can't enjoy it, I'm just saying that I get annoyed when something's so loved and kind of praised by such a large group of people has so many kind of like fundamental problems. None of the characters felt developed, and it's hard to do in a short story. It's hard to develop a character into something that you will like and support. It's really hard to do in such a short amount of time, but it is doable. It's done through multiple drafts, and obviously you don't want to draft something too much and lose kind of like the nuance you had at the beginning, but you do need to edit and get the important things down. I don't know, I just feel like we could have done better here. That being said, very cool concept. Love the concept. I think there are some beautiful one-liners like Pepperoni and Urga that got me. I giggled so hard. Jinx the cat, amazing. Love Jinx the cat. But it's just missing those fundamentals that really would pull it together in a way that would make it so much more satisfying than it is in its current state. This section is definitely not a week after I had to already come back to it. I'm not that unorganized. That was Five Nights at Freddy's Fazbear Frights, Into the Pit, first story. I do plan on looking at all the other stories, and I just hope that they get better as time goes on. And I know there's also the other short story series that I have not read any of those. I only have 5 of the Fazbear Frights, but I will invest in more as time goes on, hopefully. Yeah, so I hope that was in some way useful or entertaining to you, even if you like put it on to go to sleep. Thanks, I guess. That's what I do with a lot of videos. I put Moist Critical on and just go sleep. Like, that's just what I do. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you've lasted this long, hopefully, you know, like I said, it has done something for you. Maybe it's been background noise while you cleaned. I don't know. Either way, that's my thoughts on Fazbear Frights.